You guys know I want to begin with that sound check. I got to make sure you guys hear everything I say, because this broadcast is going to be very important. Hello, Corey Stern. I got your email. I was just reading your email 10 minutes before I started this broadcast. Thank you, Benny Riley, buddy. Audio's great. I'm good. Jeffrey? Is it really? It is blurry. You're right. I don't know why. Mine's very, very clear. Wow. Great. Audio's good. Camera's a little blurry. I don't know why. It's probably still bad Wi-Fi. But I'm going to fix that. All right. See if that helps a little bit. Yeah, it is. There's got to be a Wi-Fi issue. Mine is extremely clear. Man, this is getting old. I just can't win, guys. I got one of those Wi-Fi amp relays that's supposed to send it even further. Apparently, it's just going to be an issue. Still blurry. That sucks. It's a good thing I'm not showing you guys anything. Well, I am. I got 5 Atlantis. All right, guys, let me know how this audio is. I just switched Wi-Fi's. And my picture starting to look really clear too. So I did the right thing. Oh, I'm getting good at this. Yeah, I'll reappear in just a second. So those of you who can't see me yet, yeah, I fixed that issue. Too bad this isn't an upload, or I would go ahead and edit out that first part, but it's okay. This is Jason of Archaix. I'm going to get this started. You guys know this is going to be a Q&A. The Q&A is going to follow this presentation. This presentation is going to be deep. I'm going to be adding even more details, showing you guys, listen, I'm not picking on Graham Hancock. This isn't personal. But those of you who have been sending me emails and dropping comments on my channel defending Graham Hancock, you need to know the whole story here. You need to understand exactly what is transpiring in this information community. We're in an info war. And I'm telling you now, you guys, if you're going to believe in these false narratives, you have to understand you are losing an info war. You are specifically targeted to be ignorant, and it's for a very definitive reason. You guys commonly ask me why all the deception. I'm going to tell you in this video why the deception is necessary, why they continue to foist these false paradigms on you guys. This is not the first. The Graham Hancock video I did, I'm done with Hancock. I'm done with him. He is inconsequential to what we're really discussing here. He's just a puppet, a talking head. I promise you, the man will never debate me ever on this issue, and you're going to understand clearly why by the time of this video. But my passion and my research and what I have brought to the table concerning the true history of Giza complex, the engineering function, what the historical record really reveals about the Great Pyramid, how important it is to basically our future and its connection to the Phoenix phenomenon. Two independent bodies of material that fuse together so perfectly, so synthetically. I have had to produce hundreds of videos to show you guys all of this data. And recently, all of that was put together in montages as a refresher course, because we're going deeper on the Great Pyramid and we're going deeper on the Phoenix phenomenon, so you guys can get a clear picture of what is really being kept from basically the public. Outside of Archaix, who's talking about the Phoenix phenomenon? Outside of Archaix, who has even revealed to you all these things that I have pulled from all these ancient and old sources about the Great Pyramid? You're not reading anything like this in modern books at all. But I'm telling you, there is an agenda that wants to push the ancient aliens deal. That's why they're so well funded. That's why George Tsoukalos, or whatever his name is, the guy with the crazy hair, he's got so much attention on him right now. Believe me, this is all agenda driven for a very definitive purpose. This whole Anunnaki Zechariah Sitchin deal, the false chronologies, you listen, guys, that too is agenda driven. You have to understand where these men went to school. Yeah, do your homework. You'll find out some really interesting correlates between Mr. Hancock and Zechariah Sitchin. Very interesting ones, and not just those two. Many, many people today you think are popular authors, I promise you, they are not equal to their books. Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock, I don't even believe the man wrote it. I don't believe the sociologist can even put together anything like that. And the book's not impressive at all, but I promise you, he's not going to come and to the table and want to debate this Atlantis 9500 BC stuff, even though he has had millions of views across multiple platforms. It's not going to make sense to you after you see the data in this video, because the video that I released showing the clips of Graham Hancock saying 9500 BC for Atlantis, guys, I wasn't picking on him. That's all he's got. There is no data to comport with that, but Plato, in a single statement about Solon receiving from the priests of Sais this 9,000 figure. But I'm going to show you there are very qualified PhD historians and archaeologists that I'm going to quote for you right here that have all completely dismissed Graham Hancock. So why is the man still on the international stage going around promoting this lie? It has been disproven from multiple different perspectives using multidisciplinary approaches. These books here are here for a reason, guys, because I'm going to show you things that they're not telling you. They're not telling you about these things. This Atlantis story is absolutely real. But the only modern historians that are actually putting this out, they're unpopular. You don't hear about them a lot, but their books are genius. They tell you the Atlantis narrative because it is packed with historical chrono markers that actually date those events and can be comported with what we have found archaeologically, and it can be cross-referenced with what has been left behind in historical texts. I'm telling you guys, Graham Hancock would never be so foolish as to ever be caught on video being debated by me about this topic. He knows this. His handler, Randall Carlson, knows this. Their buddy, Paul Wallace knows this. Billy Carson knows this, and a host of others who have all put out this deliberate misinformation. Guys, some of these guys I'm telling you about, they are even above the collegiate level. They're very educated. They should have never made these mistakes, especially when real authorities on the first, second, and third millennium BC antiquities, archaeology and anthropology and history, real authorities have already published the data. Now, I have been accused of being a sensationalist and bringing all kinds of new ideas and concepts to the table, but have I? I have critics, and they email each other, and I see a lot of these emails. There's a lot of critics of mine who think that the emails that they are writing about me stay private, but people send me copies of emails, forward copies of emails to me all the time, and I get to see the inside of these authors' minds. I get to see how they work. And I've really heard some ridiculous stuff. Paul Wallace, for example, has 2 channels. I believe one of them is like 945,000 subs. Fifth Element or the fifth something, I don't know. But he has another channel with 100,000 subs, and I didn't know the man's name. I didn't know anything about him. Recently read an email though that was pretty dismissive of my research, but this dismissiveness was really cocky, and it kind of got under my skin. So, Mr. Wallace, when you're ready to debate this issue about 9,500 BC Atlantis, please, my email is very easily found. Any of my moderators can give it to you in the chat. But you need to back up what you said in this email. You said you have a book published, and in that book, you have independently verified outside of the Plato narrative of 9,000 units of time. You have independently verified that Plato is absolutely correct. Well, it's time to put up or shut up, because if you've really done this, you need to come on my channel and explain to my listeners why you have found something that is an anachronism and absolutely historically wrong and can be shown from multiple different mathematical vantage points. We can show you an error. So I'm not picking on anybody, but we have a lot of people falling for paradigms that are taking him down rabbit holes. I would be remiss if I was to sit here containing and exploding with so much data that can be verified and not try to educate as many people as I can, when 17 years from now, our world is going to fundamentally change. That vapor canopy is coming back, and all those people who are going to be caught unaware as how to survive this, how to move forward, going to look back in time and say, damn, man, there was a guy trying to educate people about this way back, man. Why didn't he make a better effort? Why did he stay to himself? Why didn't he? No, that's not going to be me. No one is ever going to be able to accuse me of being quiet. Yeah. I didn't bring the vapor canopy to the table. What I did is brought it back to the attention after it was deliberately suppressed. When the scientists in the 1920s published their reports, I showed you on my channel in 4 different books published in the 20s, 30s, 50s, and 70s, all about the vapor canopy. And even now, the Institute of Creation Research and other organizations are on board. They're doing vapor canopy research. This isn't something that Jason of Archaix ever made up. All I did is bring it back to your attention. Am I the one that come up with the 9,000 years of Solon was actually moons, which dates the whole Atlantis deal, not to 9,600 BC, like Graham Hancock and all these disinformation agents are telling you, but it dates it to the 13th century BC. Why? Why the deception? Guys, I didn't invent the Phoenix phenomenon. All I did was educate you on it over and over and over. I have not one single detractor, not one individual out of all the call outs. Anybody wants to go through my Phoenix phenomenon data, go through all that, and you want to debate that, you want to write a thesis, I have been inviting people for 2 years. Yeah, man, write down your thesis as to why it's wrong, and then come on my channel and talk about it. Yeah, haven't got a single taker yet. That data is amazing. So here's where I'm at with Archaix. I'm not going to take a back seat while people that have millions of ears are steady pumping out disinformation, and and this disinformation takes them further and further away from things they really need to know about, like the Phoenix phenomenon, like the real function of the Great Pyramid, and not all that Egyptological, mystical, occultic pseudoscience BS that's out there. The agendas are real because they take you down rabbit holes that waste years of your life. And they have a second function as well. That function is to exhaust you intellectually, to rob you of your imaginative capacity. The agenda acts like the boy who cries wolf. So by the time you actually hear something that's real, you're already too exhausted to give a damn. These agendas are very well funded by globalists. They do this intentionally. I'm telling you, because I know exactly where Graham Hancock went to school. And I also know who all his pupils were in the same classroom. This isn't something that's theoretical, guys. It's public knowledge. It can be found by anybody. This agenda is dangerous because it takes the population into multiple different areas and basically loses them in entire false paradigms of history. All these fallacies, all these introductions into where the actual free thinking individual is really at a loss to know or be able to ascertain between fact and fiction. But this is the value of Archaix. Because, like you guys say in the comments all the time, Jason brings the receipts. This isn't egomaniacal on my half. This is OCD. I bring the receipts because I want you to know every single source, who says it, where, when they said it. You need to know these facts because I haven't brought new things to the table. That's what I'm accused of all the time. And yeah, people praise me in the comment section. That's cool too. They're hearing new things for the first time, but they're not new. I spent my life in old books. I am now surrounded by those old books. And in those old books, I realized that almost everything that's being promulgated today is fiction or half-truths. There are channels with over 1 million subs, and almost everything coming out those channel hosts' mouth is an absolute fantasy of fiction. We're going to get to that right here, guys. I started off a little high octane. Let me slow down a little bit because I don't want to get aggressive. I want to be able to itemize the facts, because what you're going to hear here in this video, I'm so confident that no one is going to come forth and want to debate this issue that I am going to post this entire bullet point presentation of nothing but hardcore facts in the pinned comment at the end of this video. When I'm done, you will be able to read the things that we discussed, because it needs to be known. I have no problem giving my detractors all the ammo they need. It's all ammo. Here's all ammo. Here's everything that you've got to disprove in order to push that BS Mickey Mouse version of history of 9,600 BC for the Atlantis narrative. And with those of you who have been believing that for a long time, you're guilty of nothing. You are not at fault for falling for paradigms that have been pushed out so much and so heavily and for so long of a period of time. And we're going to get to that here. But when you begin to hear real information that is verifiable, now the guilt is laid at your charge if you can't get through that cognitive dissonance. If you can't get through the fact that you have come into contact with information that basically completely eliminates the paradigm that you were living, the belief system that you had, the structuring of history that is untrue. Archaix has had many, many people come in and get the hell out because they couldn't deal with the fact that their reality is bullshit. And when they come into Archaix and they see video after video after video after video, and then some people even order my published books, and they realize, oh my God, if this is true and all these bibliographic citations support this, man, everything I have been educated is a lie. And some people can't process that. And it's much easier to go ahead and just put Jason and Archaix out of their minds and go ahead and watch Netflix because that's more comfortable. Because nobody wants to believe that they have been so perfectly deceived. Yeah, guys, it's the very fact. Just listen, guys. The very fact that Randall Carlson is so quiet right now, that Graham Hancock is so quiet about this, that none of them have called me out. The very fact Billy Carson is he's just watching. He's trying to find out where all this is going. Because it's going. I promise you, I'm dealing with the Anunnaki narratives next, and then the ancient aliens. I'm not stopping with this. Because if the community is going to continue to ignore what I have brought to the table about the Great Pyramid and the Phoenix phenomenon and about our personal informed fields and our reality, then I promise you that those who think they are leaders of the community are going to find themselves under attack. Because I will take you prisoners. I will take your research. I will dissect it. I will show the public exactly what you're promoting and that you have no data sets and that there is no bibliographic citations that support any of this stuff. And I will trace it historically to the origin of that information and show where it came from, and that it's total bogus and all imaginative. And most of the things that are promoted on YouTube today are absolutely from the Golden Dawn Society era research, which is all BS. So I'm going to address this 9,600 BC Atlantis narrative right now in this video. But I promise you guys, I'm not going to be ignored at all. I'm going to draw people out, and they're going to have to back up their claims, or they're going to have to extend some type of agreement that, hey man, just check this out. Come over here and educate us on this Phoenix phenomenon. Come over here and let us know what you're talking about, this Great Pyramid. Because I'm telling you guys, I have been in battle mode my entire life. It's been both physical and intellectual. There is no backup in me. I do not experience fear. I do not care about consequences. I am a man on a mission, and I have been since I started this channel. And 100 troll channels have not been able to stop my momentum. I'm not trying to hear it, guys. I am going to educate as many people as I can. Like I said, until I can't. But until that happens, there's some people out there that need to start paying attention because they're misleading their communities. And if I target their channel because they're misleading their communities, I promise you guys, you're going to see that 99.9% of the stuff that's being put out there is absolute fiction. That's what we're going to do. Oh, let's see. You guys know I go on my rants. I'm sorry, but I got to check, make sure my audio's still good. Nobody's complaining, so it's pretty good. Yeah, guys, it's like I said, it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. But I've dedicated my life to this, and I've expended so much energy in putting all these presentations together. Yeah, my video quality kind of sucks. Yeah, I'm not scripted. I don't have all this polished veneer and all. That's cool, and that's cool. A lot of you like that because it's sincere. I started my YouTube channel from a wooden shack. And then it was in an RV, and then it was in a real smaller studio that I still use and I still like. And I've upgraded a couple studios until they didn't work, and then this studio. So listen, guys, it's I don't care about all that polished veneer. I care about information. I care about the 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 ability to communicate and be understood. Yeah, I don't want to be a talking head, just talking out the side of my neck, and you really don't know what I'm talking about. And I've never been accused of that anyway. Here in Archaix, you guys have been a really good, a really fantastic family. And I'm sorry that a lot of you have experienced so much negativity going to other channels and mentioning me or mentioning Archaix or mentioning my research. And these other channels are so quick to delete your comics, delete. You know what? All you got to do is report that channel. Report that channel to me. Don't report it to YouTube. Yeah, we're not in that mess. We're not doing that stuff. That's like calling the cops. We don't do that. We're not snitching here. You tell me who they are. And then, yeah, I'll deal with that. I'll deal with that because I told you guys, Mr. Nice Guy is only reserved for the Archaix family. Because all these other hosts out there that are just walking around the fine line, you got a problem with my criminal history, you got a problem with my diction, my enunciation, you got a problem with the fact that my research is so alien to you, that's fine, that's fine. But be ready to defend your position because I'm doing call outs. Let's see. All right. Hey, Square Peg, good video last night. Good video last night, and man, you've got to forgive me, Square Peg, because I just been so busy, but we do need to do a video together. Long overdue for that. Matt's doing archaix.tv. Real, a bunch of admin stuff. So we got some ground to cover because I still got to do Q&A. This might be a little bit longer video. So I hope some people forgive me. Oh, and by the way, I represent this shirt. Y'all see my shirt? Plato. Listen, guys. Plato, 200 years after Solon. 200 years is a long period of time. And it was told by the priests of Sais. And this is something we really need to mention here, because the priests of Sais did not know the story per se. It is specifically mentioned that the priests of Sais interpreted the inscriptions. That's one filter. Whatever the inscription said. The next filter is the priests themselves. The next filter is Solon. That's 3. The next filter after that is a 200-year period between Solon and Plato. Without any, there's no correlate between them. How did this story transfer 200 years when Solon had never met Plato? Plato never met Solon. How was it how was it transmitted? We don't know. But I don't even want to focus on that because it's neither here nor there. So here's some things that weren't discussed in the other video, guys. Anyone who has read posterior analytics knows just they understand the genius and intellect that is Aristotle. I have read every known and published Aristotle text. I have read probably the majority of all references to Aristotle that are not in Aristotle's text, but are mentioned by other later authors. I was on an Aristotle kick for a long time because I really favored Aristotle over Plato. Now, Aristotle was the student of Plato. We find it very curious that Aristotle dismissed the Atlantis story as fantasy. Let that sink in. We're going through a chain of custody of information of how we got the Atlantis story till today. But it begins way back with so many just filters. And then the very student of Plato, who is world famous, Aristotle, didn't believe the Atlantis was true history. So now, here's something a little. It's also worse. It's also worse off. Over 250 to 270 years later, we have the next reference to Atlantis, but it's only a reference to what Plato said about Atlantis, and it's the Jewish author Philo. Yeah, this is a long period of time with no historical citations at all about Atlantis. Why didn't Diodorus Siculus or Lactantius? Why didn't Strabo? Why didn't any of these people give all the histories of Atlantis? Why? If it was so well known, if the history was, well, I mean, it's so well known. Like today everybody believes Atlantis was 9,500 BC. It was a great civilization. Why didn't these authors talk about that? None of them talked about it. Now, 500 years after Plato recorded the Timaeus and Critias text. This is the only two sources for Atlantis that we have. 500 years later, it becomes the subject matter. It's just a few references, but the references appear in early Christian authors' texts. And all they do is cite Plato. Plato is still the source, guys. You got to understand, we're still dealing with a chain of custody that goes to Plato and none other. So this it's not a lot, but we do have Proclus 700 years after Plato wrote these texts. We have Proclus, who is a Neoplatonist, and he mentions the story, but everything he mentions is just what Plato said. So again, we have this chain of custody, but Plato is the beginning. There are no other references, no other ancient authors. Listen, there's a lot of channels out there. I've been reviewing videos for a couple weeks, guys. There's a lot of guys out there that are putting out some absolute lies. These ancient historians do not mention Atlantis. They do not talk about Atlantis, and you would not believe how many popular videos out there that have had like 500,000 views are talking about Atlantis. They are absolutely full with absolute complete rubbish lies. The historians they cite never said those things. Yeah, guys, you're not going to get it past me. Not the Atlantis narrative. I'm not trying to hear that. So Proclus, 700 years after Plato, Proclus, the Neoplatonist, he's basically resurrecting Plato's teachings. And in so doing, he mentions that there was a historian alive right after Plato named Crantor. And Crantor went to Egypt, and Crantor talked to the same priest Solon did. And Crantor heard the story of Atlantis. Unfortunately, scholars have dismissed this outright because we have no writings of Crantor. And even more suspicious, we don't have any other ancient authors that even mention this. That is a red flag. So, yeah, it's and it still doesn't support the 9,000. Even if there was a Crantor, and even if he did all that, and even if it was absolutely true, still it doesn't matter. It doesn't prove 9,000 years. It has nothing to do with it, the calendrical stuff. But after this, guys, we have nothing but references in the Middle Ages where all of a sudden the Atlantis story started having elements added to it. After the medieval period, the Renaissance exploded with, you remember Bacon wrote the New Atlantis, and just all of a sudden Atlanta stories and narratives and romances, and it's the backdrop for like French love stories. It's everywhere. But the chain of custody goes all the way back only to Plato through all those filters. Now, after the Renaissance era, Atlantis is just mentioned here and there. No one takes it. Scholars do not take it seriously at all during this whole period of time. And then the Golden Dawn Society and Helena Blavatsky and all these occultists and New Agers that exploded onto the scene in the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, all the way to the early 1930s. All these texts, all these books, these are the sources for about 90% of all the Atlantis information that is published across all these platforms, and even in many modern Atlantis books. And every bit of it is invented. It's made up. None of that shit is real. So we have also Edgar Cayce. Guys, it's really damning that Edgar Cayce mentioned Atlantis and dated it to the Graham Hancock type deal, because it shows that Edgar Cayce wasn't truly being hypnotized and pulling information out of the field and all that like he was doing with his medical stuff. Remember, guys, here's the danger of this. Whoever these people are that are funding all this disinformation, here's the danger, because it goes back to 1901, 1902, when Edgar Cayce had his very first experience. Edgar Cayce was genius at diagnosing things through hypnosis. He would go to sleep, get hypnotized, and his handler would talk to him, and he would give out very precise medical diagnoses and prognosis, and he was right on the money over and over. But about 10 years later, his handler started doing something else, started now using him for non-medical purposes. And now Edgar Cayce was giving readings on all kinds of historical and prophetic things. And he got so much wrong. So many Edgar Cayce predictions never happened. He got so much wrong. What was happening was that he was being fed information. These readings may have really happened, but it would have been him under hypnosis being told these things. And then under hypnosis, he relayed them in front of somebody else. This deception is real, my friends. They used Edgar Cayce to misdate things. He too may have been an absolute victim that had no idea this was happening to him. So, yeah, this is some MK Ultra type stuff from way back in the day, way back, 100 years ago. So this list I'm going to tell you, we're going to go through this list real fast. It is so impressive. Any of you think that you can dismiss this? I personally, it's my personal opinion that there is something mentally wrong with you. There is no way you can logically dismiss this much evidence when the only source in the world for 9,600 BC dating of Atlantis story is Plato through all those filters. When you hear this, here are just some of the sources, just some of the sources that say Egyptian years in ancient times were equal to our 30-day months. Oh yeah, guys. How about the priests of Neith at Sais who employed the lunar calendar? This is Plato. Plato told us. Plato said Solon got it from the priests of Sais at the Neith temple. Every Egyptologist will tell you that the priests of Neith only followed a lunar calendar. They would have never told Solon that 9,000 years in the past, this Atlantis story unfolded. They would have said 9,000 moons. It's exactly what they would have said. Additionally, the ancient Egyptians did not measure anything in years because they thought the year could not be trusted. Because 4 times in Egyptian recorded history, the sun changed its course. And with the sun changing its course, it meant to the Egyptians that it could not be used for an accurate tool of the reckoning of times. Now, Eudoxus of Knidos said that the Egyptians counted a year as a month. Eudoxus of Knidos was during the days of Plato, and he was a genius mathematician. Diodorus Siculus, we're going to get into him here in one of these books. Diodorus Siculus wrote the same thing. The Egyptian year was 1 month. Lactantius, Plutarch, Macrobius, Manetho's 9,000 years, because Manetho mentions 9,000 years too, but Manetho was writing about Egyptian antiquities. He was a Greek, and he was writing about Egyptian antiquities during the Greek epic, but 500 years after Egypt had collapsed and was ruled by foreign powers. The age of the pharaohs was long gone when he was compiling his histories. But he said 9,000 years too. But Julius Africanus corrected it and said Manetho's 9,000 years is actually 9,000 months. Yeah, guys. Don't believe Jason. Here's another one. Thomas Bradwardine in the year 1340. He wrote that Plato's 9,000 years was actually lunar reckoning. Do you think though, with a little reading, according to Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock, he has a huge bibliographic section at the end of his book, meaning he must have read all those books. I can circle for you all the books in Graham Hancock's bibliographies to prove to you that Graham Hancock had access to all this data. Tell me he's not lying. No, he didn't make a mistake, guys. This is an agenda. Now, Pierre d'Ailly, 1370 AD, wrote 9,000 years was lunar reckoning system, not solar years. In the year 1572, Pedro Sarmiento Balboa wrote that 9,000 years was in reference to a lunar counting system, not a solar one. In the year 1577, Augustine Zerotti, quoting Eudoxus, also said that 9,000 years was actually lunar periods, not solar years. Now, Eugenius Philolethes in the year 1721 wrote that the Babylonian and the ancient Greek calendars only counted moons. What? Yeah. John Jackson, 1752, in Chronological Antiquities, you saw in the video, he gives an overwhelming amount of evidence that these were moon count systems, not years. Tell me again, Atlantis was 9,600 BC. Historian Robert Argod, about 1340 BC. Historian Robert Argod says the entire affair happened in 1340 BC by lunar reckoning, and it links the Sea People's invasion. He mentioned the Sea People's invasion as being the Atlanteans. They came not from Atlantis, they came from the Atlantic. Now, Tony O'Connell. I don't think I've ever plugged this guy before, but I need to. And if he listens to this video, he needs to know. Very valuable work you've provided, Tony. Tony O'Connell has listed so many sources showing that the Atlantis narrative is not 9,600 BC. That is the 13th century BC. Tony O'Connell, his book is called Joining the Dots. And I believe he has a website. It's Joining the Dots. Or there is a Tony O'Connell website where you can go to a page called Joining the Dots. You will get overwhelmed with data on this Atlantis deal. Yeah. Graham Hancock could not debate Tony O'Connell either. I promise you. So, numerous citations. 9,000 years of Plato was actually 9,000 months. Historian Olaf Rudbeck has the Atlantean invasion by lunar reckoning around 1350 BC. The reason these are different dates, guys, is because these are different lunar systems being employed. Nobody's really sure. It could be 27.52, which is our year divided by 13. 13 moons. This is the 13-month lunar calendar of ancient Egypt. And some scholars factor it 27.52 days a month. Others just round it off to 30 days a month, and they use the 12-month system. We really don't know which system was employed, but both systems produce pretty much the same time period, 13th century BC. So, and early 14th century. So yeah, guys, that's all that is. I need something to drink. Before we go to the next part, we've only been going 46 minutes, so I don't have that urgency to rush like I just rushed. I wanted to get all those data points out, man, because they're incontestable. There is no one who believes that Atlantis was 9,600 BC that can go through and refute all those points. You can't. You can't. The best thing you can do is contact Jason and say, man, this was impressive. I didn't know all these things. I accepted all this research by Graham Hancock and stuff at face value. And I feel bad that I've been miseducating people. Now, that's the best thing you could do, because I would bring you on my channel and we could talk about it. And because I cannot lay to your charge that you accepted something as true that has been put out so prolifically. But I can lay to your charge that once you've heard the information and you ignore it, then it's open season. And don't be surprised what moves I make in the future. So, let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm all for people changing their mind. There's been a few times on my channels, guys, where I've had to back up a little bit and tell you guys, you know what, maybe that, yeah, I think you guys might be right. And I've had to amend my own opinions about things. So, let me look at this chat. I don't want to ignore this chat, because we're about to go into these books. You need to hear these books right here, guys. How many people we got in here? All right. 1,400, huh? Yeah, don't be fooled by those relative dating methods, guys. Like this stupid ass, it's dumb. Potassium argon dating. Don't be fooled by anything you can't verify yourself. Don't think that these scientists have it so good that they can just they can radiocarbon date something and basically tell you the date that how old something is. Listen, you need to read a book called Evolution Cruncher to see how ridiculous it is. The circular reasoning, how they take 200 samples and then they eliminate all the majority of them that don't fit with the cluster. And then they go with the cluster. But some that they threw out are always actually the true date. And they'll go with this clustering. Or they'll eliminate all samples that don't comport with basically a period of time that they've already decided is probably the dating of whatever's being tested. This is listen, scientists practice exclusions all the time. This is what they do, guys. And the very fact that people believe that just because it comes from a scientific authority, some white coat wearing, that it's true is so ridiculous, because you're doing the same thing a Southern Baptist does. You're taking it on faith because you didn't do the test yourself. You don't even understand how the test is conducted. You don't even know how they can measure against the isotopic breakdown of carbon in the atmosphere. You don't even know how they can do it, or how they can render that into a mathematical construct and then filter that through all their arithmetic to produce in a computer program a date that you would accept as true, not knowing that in order to do that, they had to eliminate many samples that did not comport with what they wanted. Yeah, guys, this is how relative dating methods work. Yeah, they didn't rewrite all the books when they found out, dendrochronology was supposed to be established science, counting tree rings. They didn't rewrite all the textbooks when they had factually dated all these historical events by the tree ring dating method, and then come to find out in the 1960s and 70s, some scientists come forward and say, "Hey, man, we might have got some things wrong. We found out that most trees grow 2 rings a year. There's 2 wet seasons a year. It's called spring and it's called fall." Guys, they didn't rewrite the textbooks. They kept the old dating. Even though everything's been misdated, they still held to the old dates. Yeah, guys, they do it all the time. They do this all the time. Scientists are the worst. The worst. I'll look at that polyester. I have a copy of the Oral End right here right here on my shelf. And there is a huge disaster in the Oral End. As a matter of fact, I think there's 2 of them. Oh, I'm getting behind on the chat. Yeah, let's move on, guys. Let's go to a book. I'm pretty sure Graham Hancock and Company knew about this book. I'm pretty sure. Lost Atlantis by James Bramall. Yeah, guys, this is the year of my birth, 1973. This little book has a huge bibliography, a large index. It is small book, but it's absolutely packed full of data. And this guy wasn't pulling any punches about the Atlantis narrative. I'm going to read to you real quick on page 94 what he said. And these small books, they irritate the hell out of me with this small print. And I know I've got a large magnifying glass in here somewhere. There it is. All right, listen to this, guys. James Bramall, 1973. Very informative book. There is no archaeological evidence for the existence of civilized Greeks in the peninsula before the first dynasty in Egypt. It is an impossibility. That one statement completely kills 9,600 BC as the Atlantis narrative. Absolutely kills it. I do not know how Graham Hancock can sleep at night because he knows these things. This man's not innocent, guys. Quit sending me emails defending him and trying to neutralize this whole situation and trying to tell me, man, that you're a little hard on the guy. I'm not hard on the guy. I'm not. Yeah. I haven't even started on the other guys, but this guy here, yeah. Come on, he's a sociologist, and all of a sudden he started writing on ancient history in his books. I'm telling you now, guys, I have listened to many videos of Graham Hancock speaking, and I'm telling you now, I do not hear the eloquence of a man who wrote these texts. I don't. It's almost as if to me that, hey man, check this out. We're going to give you this check. I don't know if this is true or not, but what other situation can I imagine that comports with this huge agenda-driven false narrative of history? How many people have they gone to and say, hey, check this out. Over the next 20 years, we're going to give you about $30 million. We're going to slow release these books. Here you go. Your name's going on this book. Read it about 10 times. Make sure you know the material because you're going on a lecture circuit. Oh, I'm just imagining, guys, that was a matter of opinion because I can't see any other scenario. I just can't. I can't. I do not believe that Graham Hancock had researched all the books in his bibliography because the things that come out of his mouth do not comport with a man who is educated enough to even elucidate the things that are found in his bibliography. His bibliographies are really nice. Some pretty good, profound books in there. But why he cherry-picked what he was going to reveal as opposed to the drivel that he's putting out, I don't know. But he could come on my channel and talk to me about it, and we'll figure it out together. This is awesome. Lost Atlantis. Book is just packed, guys. Absolutely packed. Put that away. Let's go to the next book. This is one of my favorites. Shelly, new member. Glad to have you here. Sorry, I'm ignoring the chat right now. We'll do Q&A when I'm done. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to keep up with that. Yeah, guys, it is not. I'm telling you guys. Yes, a confidence man. No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. The very fact that these learned, educated, well-established, multimillionaire authors are not even entertaining a man with an 8th grade education should be absolutely embarrassing. Yeah. They should not be able to walk out in public without people saying, hey man, this dude right here wants to talk to you, man. You're just gonna ignore him? Really? Really? An 8th grade education. That's crazy. It blows my mind. This book's gonna blow your mind. I have cited this book in the past on my channel. I wanted those of you who get deep into read. I know some of y'all order all the books I talk about because I know you send me email pictures of them, and it's a beautiful thing. That's why I love the Archaix family. Some of you guys are always fact checking me, and it's awesome. Atlantis, the Andes Solution. This is the book I showed you guys that has a list of all the 50 traits and characteristics that are in the Atlantis story of Plato that you cannot ignore if you're going to date the story. Yeah, I don't want to tell you about it. Let me show it to you. Man, it's got maps, topographical stuff. It's just awesome. The book is awesome. So this is the list. I know you can't see it from this distance, but you can see some. Yeah, this is the list right here. And it goes on for a couple pages. All that's the continuation of the list. All that's a continuation of the list. It's a beautiful list. But he also mentions in point 29 that one would have to employ a lunar calendar, and the result would be that the Atlantis story was in 1263 BC. And he theorizes that the Trojan War may have had something to do with the invasion of the Sea Peoples, and that the Sea Peoples came from ancient America. It's all in this book. So, what's fascinating is the pictures he puts in here. He shows. I'm going to get up and show you because he shows archaeological evidence that Central America was devastated in a flood that lasted for like 80 or 90 years. A flood that destroyed the cities, pyramids, and everything in Central America. Those people had to go somewhere. but their civilization was flooded out. Then he shows what they look like. It's very interesting because we see the exact same headdresses and stuff. The Philistine Trojan style headdresses. Yeah, those were later developed from an earlier prototype that was feathered. You got to see this picture. 12th century BC. This is 13th century BC art. The Prince of Knossos in Crete. Look at the feathered plume right here. This is in the middle of the Mediterranean, Knossos in Crete. This is in the middle of Mexico, a Mayan noble. The hats are like the plumed feathered deals coming off their hats are absolutely perfectly identical. Now, we can say that's coincidence. We can definitely say that's coincidence. The only thing I want to bring to your attention, though, is that this book is packed with information showing that the Sea Peoples Federation that came from the Atlantic could have very well have come from the Americas. And he just goes into a lot of detail about it. It's something you might want to look at. I really don't care about that. That's not the subject matter of this video. But I will say that on page 69, this is crazy. Page 69. What is a Mediterranean-styled amphora doing in a Bolivian museum? And the amphora dates from 1200 BC. What is a Mediterranean vase doing found in a shipwreck off the coast of Bolivia? So you can't say there wasn't some type of trade or interaction in between the ancient Americas and the Mediterranean. So he goes on to list tobacco, cocaine, different things that are found in the Americas, coffee beans, all kinds of things in the ancient Americas that have been found in Egyptian tombs. This book is really good, guys. It's really good for another reason. Plato's 9,000 years before Solon is in fact lunar months, bringing the date down to a period from 1400 BC to 1186 BC. A sidereal lunar month of 27.32 days would give us a date of 1263 BC. Now, in the back of the book, I told you that there is a list 1 through 50 of all the things that you need to know before you try to date. Talking about iron utensils, it's talking about the use of copper, everything that's mentioned by Plato that a historian, an anthropologist, and an archaeologist would need to know to be able to accurately date this story. It's right here. Now, I've already showed that to you, but in the back of the book is another 50-point list. Very detailed. And in this list are all the botanical and geographical and geological facts that are mentioned by Plato about Atlantis that you would need to know. And he's showing all 50 of these to show, man, this Atlantis had to have been the ancient Americas. This is very impressive. It's not the subject matter of this video, but I just wanted to show you how amazing this dude's research is. This book here, and the bibliography will keep you busy for a long time just chasing his source materials and reading those books as well. Something that Graham Hancock should have done. It's just amazing. It goes on and on. This is just 50 points. It goes on and on. But this is the book, Atlantis, The Andes Solution by J.M. Allen. Here it is right here, guys. It's amazing. It is amazing. So we're moving right along. Moving right along. Check this chat before we go into the next one. We're getting our San Diego meetup together too, guys. We've been in overdrive the past 2 days, getting all the details together. We got like 5 different venues. We're trying to select the venue, but it's serious. We're doing a meetup in San Diego on October 21st. And as far as I know, I'm going to be there. Max Egan's going to be there. Martin Leakey's going to be there. Logan of Decode Your Reality is going to be there. And I believe Danny of the Unfuckers Group is going to be there as well. And we're inviting some others that want to come join us as well. It's we're trying to do a meetup blowout. It's October 21st, and in the next few days, we're gonna have the venue pinned down, and we'll start those ticket sales. But yeah, we want to do a special one for our October 21st to end the year out with a bang for our Archaix meetups before we start our 2024 tour. Yeah, you're right. Bolivia's landlocked. Bolivia as a country is landlocked, but it's still attached to the coast geographically, and these national boundaries didn't exist when this vase was shipwrecked. Probably a Phoenician vessel, but it ended up in a Bolivian museum. Hey, I'm trying to catch up with this chat. How far down is this chat? All right, good. Oh, you guys remember my great wall of, the Great Wall of China, the Great Wall of Rome, the Silk Road of Rome, videos with Mark Leakey, and then Max Egan and I did it. Somebody recently sent me an email with a picture, blew my mind. I wish I had it when we did those videos. Whole sections of the Great Wall of China couldn't have been built for defenses. They're not solid. They're filled with sand. Totally shocked me. But sand is an excellent ballast for a road. Hell yeah, every bit of it. More and more data keeps coming in showing us that all this crap they've been telling us about history is totally false. JJ Recon, you gonna come troll the event? yeah, man. We got say. I know you play. That's good stuff. All right. I got a buddy in San Diego. Somewhere over here, I got the Box Saga. I got the Box Saga book. I got a buddy in San Diego that gave me the Box Saga book, and he ordered all 36 books of Out of the Ashes by William Johnstone because I talk so highly of the series on my channel, explaining when I was in prison, I read these books. It opened I'd already been researching the Phoenix phenomenon for a while. And when I read these books, it just opened my mind. I said, wow, this dude he perfectly explained what like North America would be like after an epic reset. It's amazing. And it just happens to be called Out of the Ashes, like a phoenix. So William Johnstone wrote that series of books. Well, Eric ordered all those books, read them, and then gifted them to me. I have they're on my shelf in my other studio, but my small studio where all my new books are, and it fills the whole top shelf. 36 books of Out of the Ashes, William Johnstone. When I was in prison, I only read the first 24 books. I didn't know how to get the other ones. Actually, my dad sent me books 1 through 24, and I was never able to read. For some reason, they denied book 7. The mailroom had some rules. They said something was in book 7 they wouldn't allow. So I never got to read book 7, but I'm going to read it in my leisure time, probably when I'm traveling. And I'm going to catch up on those last 12 books because I got to be able to say I read that whole thing. But Eric, there it is right there. There it is right there. Oh, here's some books. Before we got more on Atlantis. I'm just one of my tangents. A real interesting book I found. The Destruction of Black Civilization. Great Issues of a Race from 4500 BC to 2000 AD. You guys have to understand, a lot of the most fantastic buried historical accounts that I've ever found were in books about subject matter for which I wouldn't ordinarily read. So I was flipping through this book in an old bookstore. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I need to read this book. So it's called The Destruction of Black Civilization. I'm going to read it. I'm going to let you guys know about it. You guys already know you got a video coming by H.S. Bellamy, built before the flood. I've already done a Bellamy video. Remember I told you guys about the pre-Selenites? That in ancient times, civilizations used to divide themselves between the pre-Selenites and the Selenites, those who existed before, that had histories before the moon appeared. Oh, a Dictionary of Symbols. That's a really good old book. Here it is, Box Saga. Yeah, there it is, the Box Saga. Keep hearing about this Box Saga book. I don't know anything about it, guys. But I trust Eric's judgment that it's a worthy read. I don't know how close it is to like I don't know the Volsunga saga. I don't know how close it is to I don't know what is it called, the Mabinogion, ancient Welsh triads. I don't remember. I've read so much material I lose track, and I don't know about the Box Saga. I can't remember. I know it's not like Snorri Sturluson's material, all his Christianized European material. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, guys. Hey, I just saw Bro Sanchez in the chat. How you doing, bro? Good video we had the other day. All right, so let's see here. Squirrel Sniper, how you doing, man? Pamela. Woohoo! All right, guys, we got some more. Yeah, you know my tangents, man. You gotta forgive me. Jurgen Spanuth. Yeah, guys. Ask Graham Hancock when you get a chance why he never cites Jurgen Spanuth. I'll tell you why. Atlantis of the North. Guys, when I went through this book, I was overwhelmed. I'm telling you that now. And listen, I can spend all day long putting together data sets from variant sources, organizing it, collating it, editing it. I'll look up 9 hours have passed and it'll feel like an hour to me. Listen, guys, this book almost overwhelmed me. But 1979, when you go to page 22, 22's got something really interesting you guys need to hear. So it's Jurgen Spanuth, Atlantis of the North, 1979. He writes, Diodorus Siculus wrote of the Egyptians. This is 2,100 years ago. Diodorus Siculus wrote of the Egyptians, saying, some men would maintain that in earlier times, before the movement of the sun had as yet been recognized, it was customary to reckon the year by the lunar cycle. Consequently, since the year consisted of only 30 days, it was not impossible that some men lived 1,200 years. Answer me again how old Adam was, Methuselah, Noah. Yeah, guys, we have been taught deliberate misinformation. These men did not live that long. People were not living for centuries and centuries. It's untrue. The numbers are correct. The way that we have reckoned the passage of time is not, because we don't pay attention to the calendars that are in use when those civilizations recorded those facts. 9,600 years BC for the Atlantis story should be very, very humorous to you, comical. It's a Disney version of history. And you guys putting all that information out there, it's time to stop. It's time to start assessing the facts. We need to move forward as a community together, because I promise you guys, I'm taking no prisoners. If I find that you're being resistant and you know the facts, but you're not, I'm telling you, I'm calling you out. Be ready for it. So let's go with it's beautiful. This book is just overwhelmed with data. Atlantis of the North, Jurgen Spanuth. I know, I'm sorry, guys, I'm quoting all these books because I already know you're going to order them. I already know some of you guys are just going to order them. And look, you're just going to have to save your money or go ahead and take that hit on that credit card. Because today I got to tell you all about these books. Okay. This one's good. Remember, guys, the vapor canopy. What's this called? It's called the flood from heaven. What? All right. This is Eberhard Zanger. He's got a real weird name, but you know what? If he's listening to me, I apologize. This is a book from 1992, and I love it. I love this book. Now, the why he stands out. First of all, Graham Hancock will never be caught in a room with this man. This man is a PhD historian, archaeologist. This man knows his shit, and he knows absolutely that 9,600 years BC for the Plato narrative of Atlantis is absolute fantasy. Knows that absolutely, dude. This book, out of all these books, guys, if you're ordering any one of them, this is the one. This is the one. So let's go to page 101 and just look see what he says. Page 101. My God. Big book, small print. As was said before, the story will provide many particulars: individual states or kingdoms in Greece, a united Greek army, citadels, bronze weapons, chariots, a large navy fleet, shipyards, and horse race courses, which should help to fix an archaeological date to assume such a level of achievement. For this to be 10,000 BC is patently absurd. But it does correspond to the last centuries of the Bronze Age, specifically 1400 to 1150 BC, and no other time in Mediterranean prehistory. Archaeology, history, anthropology all condemn 9,600 BC Atlantis narrative of Graham Hancock and all his followers. Absolute baloney. But there's a hidden gem in here. Approximately 1150 BC for the total collapse of the Bronze Age. Those of you who have been following my Phoenix research, you already know why that is. You already know the Phoenix appeared, and it started a 300-year-old Greek Mediterranean Dark Age. Right. That's right. It's exactly what happened. All right, let's see. Debbie Snow. Debbie Shaw, order dispatched. View order details. That's good stuff. All right, Debbie, read that book. Read that book. Naked Tweaker, you need to review all the Phoenix material before you assume that the world before 1902 was much different than the world after 1902. Phoenix, that was a soft reset, and it was a lot of edits that took place, and you'll understand it when you see those videos. But the problem is a lot of you new to my channel bring in that baggage from other channels thinking that resets are something new. It's new vernacular. It's not. I cite many historians in my former videos that were talking about resets and openly admitting to the existence of resets. One of them is Arnobius. Arnobius goes into great detail about resets, and this was 16 centuries ago. So, yeah, this 1902 reset was a soft reset. At the most, maybe 50,000 people died on record from cataclysmic type stuff, but many new things suddenly appeared in our world, and old things just vanished and disappeared. So it's very interesting about 1902. But 2040 is not going to be a soft reset by any stretch of the imagination, and the data for that is overwhelming. I have that book, A Short History of the World, 1922, H.G. Wells. I have that book. I have read that book. I have dog-eared that book, and my pencil marks are everywhere in that book. That's a good book. H.G. Wells, A Short History of the World. Yeah, that's a good book. He gives it to you. Making cornbread and listening to Jason. Man, I wish you could send me some of that cornbread. I love cornbread. Cornbread, warm, and with a lot of butter. Oh man. Indigenous creature. I can't believe you missed the first hour. Shame on you. Oh, we're not done. All right. David Hatcher Childress. I've plugged him at least 20 times on my channel. I know it's been more than that. I have cited his material, cited his books. I respect the man. He's a part of the Ancient Aliens franchise now, but he doesn't really promote the Ancient Aliens at all. They use him, they cite him all the time, man, for all his knowledge on all these old books that I've read, he's read. Listen, David Hatcher Childress and I have a lot in common as far as how prolific our libraries are, how much we've actually read, absorbed, and we've come to a lot of the same conclusions and things, but he's more of a reporter type author. He reports what's all in these books. He's not really putting theories together. He's not really connecting the dots. But he's still very good. He's learned. He's very well traveled. I'm impressed with his. This is the Lost City series, and I really like his series. But even David Hatcher Childress has fallen prey to the modern narrative. Let me explain, because it's very overwhelming how much the media has pushed this alt version of history about 9,600 years BC. Let me show you what this is: the lost cities of Atlantis, ancient Europe, and the Mediterranean. Here's a passage from Childress's book. I've read this book at least 4 times. I've read every Childress book at least 4 times, except his the Mystery of the Olmecs, which is on my shelf right there, because you guys are going to get a video about the Olmecs, because the Olmec culture is intrinsically connected to the Phoenix phenomenon. I love cornbread and beans. That's great. All right. This is David Hatcher Childress on page 72 of this book. Some scholars have even tried to equate the invasion of the Sea Peoples with the invasion from Atlantis that Solon mentions in Plato's account. The logic is that the 12th century BC had a great war, and an invasion from the west did occur, as Plato had said. Therefore, Plato was embellishing on the early Greek history and had his dates wrong. This would place the war with Atlantis at only 1,000 years before Plato, rather than 9,000 years. David Hatcher Childress nailed it right here. Nailed it. Because that's the 13th century BC. He nailed it. Well, 14th century BC. He nailed it. Then he goes on and F's it all up. He continues. It seems to me that the Greeks of Plato's time had a pretty good idea of their own history of 1,000 years earlier. Witness the Iliad and the Odyssey, Homer's epics of Troy, and the early adventures of seafarers like Jason and the Argonauts. The Greeks were familiar with this historic period of their history, while Atlantis was of a time many thousands of years earlier, or so the Egyptian priest told the Athenian statesman Solon. So David Hatcher Childress, just flowing in his writing, assessing all the data, actually nailed it, got it perfectly, and then was basically overcome with the idea that the Greeks would know their own history, which shocks me, because we have references from ancient writers who absolutely admit that the Greeks only count their history going back to the 2 events called the Trojan War and the 7 against Thebes, and everything before that is in the realm of mythology, which includes Jason and the Argonauts. So I would have thought David Hatcher Childress, it's so weird that you nailed it and then turn around and undid exactly what you had expressed to be true. You just totally undid it with the idea that the Greeks would know their own history. David, I'm sorry, bro. I've always plugged you, but I am totally against what you put in this book. Totally against. And you should be too after listening to this video. It doesn't mean you're a bad fellow, and I'd always have you on my channel because I respect your research. And Yeah, David Hatcher Childress is always welcome in Archaix, even though you're a part of the Ancient Aliens franchise. I've watched many of those videos, and I see that you're not really playing along. I see that they use you for your historical knowledge, and then they build their narrative around some of the data you provide. It's very interesting, but you're always leaving the existence of aliens open, and that's cool with me. I understand that. I get it. Okay, guys. So last thing I want to tell you, we can't, well, I got a few things to tell you, but we can never have a discussion about the historicity and chronological accuracy of the dating of the Plato narrative of Atlantis without mentioning another one of my favorite authors. And I've mentioned him quite a few times on my channel as well. And I promise you, Graham Hancock and all his followers won't debate this man about the chronological timing of the story either. His name is Frank Joseph. His books on Atlantis are fantastic. The Destruction of Atlantis is in my library. And now I also have another book by Frank Joseph that follows up on this. And I can't remember what it's called, but The Destruction of Atlantis, Children of Atlantis or something, or I don't remember, but he's got a second book that follows up on it. But Frank Joseph nails it to the 13th century BC, and he also identifies the Sea Peoples Federation as being the ones that Plato was talking about as the Atlanteans that came from the Atlantic. He nailed it too. Frank Joseph definitely has. I don't even know where my seal is. I got a seal in here somewhere, but yeah, you know what? Frank Joseph rings my bell. Yeah, man. So, before we get into Q&A, we're going to talk about something. Yeah, Nick K, Evolution Cruncher's getting rarer and rarer. If anybody can find a PDF, or if anybody has a PDF, because I believe I found one in the past and behind a paywall, and I can't remember. I shared it with some people. I don't know if I have it anymore. But Evolution Cruncher is a book they're trying to make rare. Just like you saw, it's getting harder and harder to find. I have plugged that book several times. I would love a PDF of that book. I don't know if I can find a paperback version anymore. It's this thick. But Evolution Cruncher is written by scientists, and it absolutely, completely takes apart evolution, natural selection, relative dating methods, and it shows all these discoveries that disprove all these scientific models. It shows fossils that are unbelievable, things that have been found that are inexplicable. Scientists completely ignore, and they don't report these things because they completely undermine everything they teach us in these textbooks, in these authoritative scientific documentaries. Evolution Cruncher is a book that everybody should have. If anybody has a PDF of that or something, or a paperback copy, I will do videos on Evolution Cruncher right here on my channel. If somebody was to, I got my PO boxes in the description box. How you can mail me donated books. But I read it in prison. I took a bunch of notes from it, but it's a book I should have never came off of. Oh, somebody said the PDF is on the Discord group. Archaix Discord group has a PDF. I hope somebody from the Discord group will send me a PDF of that. I would like to have the paper version to show on YouTube, but I will use the PDF because it's got amazing information in there. Somebody said Frank Joseph wrote 9 books on Atlantis. I've only read 2 of them, but that's good. Thank you, guys. That's good. Love Frank Joseph. I love Frank Joseph. I also like chicken. I sure hope we're eating chicken tonight because I'm hungry. But we're going to finish this video before I worry about my stomach. Let's see. All right. Okay. We're going to get into the why. Why would they want to hide all this? Why would they want to deceive? Well, I kind of already addressed that earlier in the video. As long as they have 5 or 6 major threads, and some of them have crossover, but 5 or 6 major threads of these paradigms that are being pushed. And they have a collection of authors that push this paradigm. This Anunnaki is hundreds of thousands of years paradigm. And that kind of crosses over into the ancient aliens paradigm. And then the Atlantis is 9,500 BC often opens the door for ancient aliens talk. You feel me? All these multiple branches of disinformation take millions of people with them, leaving a lot of people to go from paradigm to paradigm and then start merging these concepts, and they never know what's really fact and what's fiction. It just gets exhausting, so they give up. They give up. They don't want to know about the past anymore. It's like the boy who cries wolf. You are flooded with so many theories that when you finally hear the truth, you trip over it, get back up, brush off your knees, and keep on going without realizing what happened to you. And this is all by design. The reason why 9,600 BC is so pushed today in modern times, it was a mistake, guys. We have to understand, it was a genuine, forgivable mistake because ancient authors were using the wrong calendar to interpret an accurate story. It's a genuine mistake. That's why I don't fault people for that. But for those who find all this data out and then continually to push 9,600 BC as fact, it's no longer a mistake. You've come into contact with accurate information that can be verified. It's no longer a mistake. It's an agenda. So why? Why would Graham Hancock and so many other people push a false narrative? Why? Because it supports another false narrative that has billions of dollars behind it. Guys, remember, I have videos that educate you that even the scientific community can't even agree how an ice age is possible. There are 60 different theories in the scientific community as to how an ice age could even be possible. Do you know why? Because when they first came up with an ice age theory, other scientists from another discipline said, okay, well, if that's true, what do we do with these data sets? And they couldn't be answered for. So, oh, okay, well, ice age couldn't have happened that way because these paleobotanists do have a point. And then geologists would come up and say, hey, if the ice age is true, it couldn't have happened that way. We're not saying it's not true, guys. We're saying that it couldn't have happened that way because we have this evidence here. What about this? And those data sets would be presented in the 1840s and then the 1850s and the 1860s and the 1870s, all the way up to 2017. There are 60 different ice age theories because the scientific community can't let go of the model, even though every discipline has provided evidence that it couldn't have happened. Why? Why all the deception? Because 9,600 years BC takes the alt history community and uses it to support the Ice Age theory. Because even if you don't believe Atlantis was 9,600 BC, you're still left with Ice Age being presented as fact, even though we have maps. We have maps, and Graham Hancock has even talked about some of these maps. He even infers that they're just copies of maps from 10,000 years ago. It is patently absurd. We have maps that show Antarctica absolutely ice-free, the valleys, the rivers, and the mountains in their correct topographical coordinates. Everything is fine. The maps are good. How do those maps exist? If the North Pole, not the North Pole, but excuse me, if the Arctic and the Antarctic have been covered in packed ice that goes over 1 mile to 2 miles high in different areas, if that's true, which they tell us, how were those maps made? How were those maps even found Charles Hapgood in the 1950s, Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings. I've talked about it a lot on my channel. Irrefutable proof. It's not the only one. The Orontes Fintus map, that's not the only one. There are several maps that have been found. Martin Leakey's in the chat. He knows by heart all the maps that show Antarctica. Those maps should not exist if the Ice Age is a real thing, but it's not. Why do they promote 9,600 years for Atlantis? Because just the theory, whether it's true or not, just the theory implies that Ice Age is fact when it's not. I have a video called 1871 Cyclical Flood Theory. Martin Leakey was a part of that video. In that video, I read to you passages out of a book where a geologist in the 1870s completely smashed Ice Age theory with the data he had available to him in that time. Ice Ages were not true at all. He showed exactly what the evidence showed. He showed the distribution of boulders was not by glaciation. He showed exactly how it all happened. His theory is fantastic, and it explains the anomalies we have in the geological record. Yeah, it's a harrowing video because what's being described in that video about what happened to the animals and why we found them perfectly preserved without decay in the permafrost. Mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, giant tree sloths. Yeah, they're all there, guys. North America, Alaska, Siberia, Russia. They're still being found. Those carcasses are still being thawed out. The meat is being chopped up and given to sled dogs. Even today. Ice Age, the Ice Age whole narrative falls apart upon scrutiny. That's why they need to develop and push all these different ideas and theories that infer Ice Age as fact. Ice Age isn't debatable. What's debatable is Atlantis. Ice Age isn't debatable. Civilization X, which is believed by many occult historians to be in the 10,000 BC off the Edgar Cayce readings and the Helena Blavatsky readings and the Golden Dawn readings is 10,000 BC. So Ice Age is not what's being disputed. It's the alternative history theories that put things in the Ice Age. Yes, guys, it's very clever what they're doing. This is an agenda. So why is it important? Why is it so important that Ice Age is completely pushed on us as a historical fact when there's 60 different scientific theories about it because scientists can't agree how it's even possible that an Ice Age happened? But scientists are locked in a multidisciplinary web, and they can't get out of that web because they see that there's 2 miles high of snow and packed ice in the Arctic and in the Antarctic. So an Ice Age must have happened, right? Wrong. 9,600 years BC Atlantis is promoted because they can't let you know what the historical record really reveals. I got a video on Acambaro. Remember? The Acambaro artifacts are 35,000 artifacts, and many of them can be good. You can go to Mexico today to the Ica Museum and look at them for yourself. What was found in Mexico of humans and dinosaur-like creatures and megafauna all interacting together at the same time. They don't want you to know about the vapor canopy period because the vapor canopy period completely reassembles everything that they have told us in the historical record. The KT boundary wasn't millions of years ago. They've never adequately explained why we have thousands of specimens of fossilized jellyfish that were flash frozen a mile under salt water. The real history of the world is an event that flash froze the entire world. Flash froze over a mile of depth in all the oceans. All these things were fossilized. They were flash frozen, and then after centuries of thawing out, the slow thawing out, you got to understand, salt water is packed with minerals. This is what a fossil is. When the biological materials thaw out and begin to decompose, they are replaced with silicates and minerals from the surrounding ice. And the fossils appear. This is how an invertebrate like a jellyfish or a sponge can be found in fossilized form. This is why fish in the middle of swallowing other fish were flash frozen and fossilized. The scientific model that we have today for the fossilization process doesn't work for these models. How do you get thousands of fossilized jellyfish? They don't have bones. They're perfectly preserved. Everything about them is preserved anatomically. How do you get fish in the middle of giving birth to other fish? How? Not all fish just lay fish eggs. We have marine creatures in the fossil record pushing out babies through their hip bones underwater, flash frozen, and now we have them fossilized in our museums. How is that possible? It's not possible by the scientific method and description of history. It is possible if the entire world was flash frozen, which is exactly what we find with 2.5 million mammoths with tulips still in their mouth in Siberia. It's exactly what we find. And it's exactly what is described in the historical record. We had a vapor canopy world of very high humidity, very intense atmospheric pressure, volcanic outgassing of ambient radiation. We literally world where everything was provided. Humans did not. There was none of that. Humans had everything. They just had to eat it. Grew everywhere. We had a world that was like land of the lost. People, animals, amphibians, reptiles, flora, fauna, insects all grew to huge sizes. The vapor canopy period explains the fossil record, explains all these skeletons and fossils and pseudo dinosaurs and giant reptiles and giant. It explains all that. In the historical record, when this flash freezing occurred, the survivors made it in caves. Civilization totally collapsed. They described it as the day the sky fell. How did they describe it? They said the sky was an ocean above, and then one day it fractured like glass, and the pieces fell to the earth and destroyed the world. And the pieces were followed with about a 40 to 60 day period of nothing but intense rain. Volcanoes were erupting. The whole entire world was shook up. And you can get a real good visual of how chaotic and how terrible it was in several of my videos, especially the 1871 video. 1871 cyclical flood theory, of how hundreds of millions of life forms thawing out were all floating on the water together, and as they decompose, they fuse together. Islands of dead bodies just putrefying, floating on the top. And then as the water went down, these islands of dead bodies were deposited. And this is why archaeologists have found what is known as the megafauna boneyards, because they are so mixed together. It's because for weeks they were floating together, pressed together. Their limbs all got together. As they were decomposing, they fused together. Yeah, islands of the dead floating for weeks after this cataclysm. 9,600 year BC Atlantis narrative is pushed because it absolutely infers that the Ice Age is fact. What's not fact is dating Atlantis. This is why they don't care if you don't believe Atlantis or not. It promotes controversy. The controversy itself has a backdrop. That backdrop is a factual Ice Age, which is actually not factual at all. The true history of the world is vapor canopy. The vapor canopy ended. The day the sky fell was the great flood of biblical and international cultural fame. The day the sky fell was when the sun was born. That's why all these ancient mythological systems say the sun was born almost in an instant. And in ancient Americas, it was the water sun. Yeah, in the Sumerian pantheon, it was Utu Shamash. She was just suddenly born after the Sumerian history was so old. After Egyptian pantheon was already well established, all of a sudden Horus came in, the son of the sun. He came into the pantheon. This is the story all over. When Spider Grandmother, her web across the sky collapsed, and it ended the age of the stone giants. And Spider Grandmother was never seen again. Remember, Spider Grandmother is a reference to arachnid. The 7 kings of the Anunnaki came from a matriarch. She is called the 8th. She is mentioned in the book of Revelation as well. When the 7 kings return, there is a reference in the apocalypse to the return also of the 8th. The 8th is the only female. It is the ancient matriarch. This is why Kali of ancient India had 8 arms. This is why the oldest references to the Egyptian pre-cataclysm king was Scorpion King, which is an arachnid. All these references are to the vapor canopy period when the matriarchy was ruling over these cultures. So all this is in my videos, guys. Nothing I'm saying right now is new. It's all covered in many presentations on my channel. Let's see. You know what? I haven't used this feature at all. Matt Kubas, how you doing? I ain't seen you in a while, man. I'm gonna go ahead and put you right there, man. Vapor canopy donation. I appreciate that, man. As I get more and more popular, I get fewer and fewer donations, but that's okay, man. I appreciate it, man. Oh, let's see. Yeah, megafauna boneyards, guys. Listen, there are many theories put out there. Go look up some of these Atlantis Ice Age theories. There's a lot of them. There's several books out there because it infers that the Ice Age is fact. And it's only the theory that's being attached to the Ice Age is wrong. Yeah, guys, this level of deceit is very sophisticated. It's very sophisticated, guys. But why? Let's continue with this narrative. Why? Why would they not? Why would they still put out this? Why do they care that we believe in the Ice Age? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because an inaccurate knowledge of the past will always ensure an inaccurate knowledge of future events. Why do they not want us to know about the vapor canopy when there's so many books about it in old time? I say old times, but there's so many references to it in Antiquity of this watery canopy of this world. And the archaeological record is rife with proof we had a vapor canopy world. Why the deception? Why would they not want us to know about this? Because once we take it as a fact in the collective, when the whole community comes together and says, yeah, man, you're absolutely right, man, this vapor canopy was real, it leads to a search for a why of the vapor canopy. In any search as to what mechanism causes the vapor canopy ultimately leads to the one phenomenon that our historians have spent a tremendous amount of energy covering up. It's the Phoenix phenomenon. It's the reason why we have the Anno Domini calendar right now. Remember, guys, I got a fantastic video on the AD calendar and why it was created. The calendar we're under today was specifically created to hide the Phoenix calendar. Yeah, this isn't Jason making this up. I cite the sources. I read to you the text. I show them on the screen. That's the why. Ice Age is promoted. False dating is promoted. False theories about the past is promoted. Vapor canopy is totally ignored, and everything else is brought to the table. Everything. Because once vapor canopy history is acknowledged, the dinosaur narrative falls apart. Once the dinosaur narrative falls apart, so does the geologic column of all the different layers being millions of years. It's a domino effect. Once the vapor canopy is truly acknowledged, and it truly answers for all the enigmas of the ancient past. However, once the collective agrees that, okay, the vapor canopy was real, the only conclusion can be is to follow the data like I did, and you'll find out all about the Phoenix phenomenon. And that is the end game. The Phoenix phenomenon is what Martin Leakey and I have been finding over and over and over and over in all these old alchemical texts. And I've shown many of them on my channel. It is hidden in the architecture and the paintings and the murals of these massive, epic, haunting cathedrals in Gothic architecture. It's everywhere, guys. My channel is full of all these demonstrations, and I'm not done. I told you guys I got 500 videos left in me, and it's always going to be that way. And 500 videos into the future, I promise you guys, I'll have 500 more. The data never stops. I still haven't even unleashed all the stuff that I learned in prison. I got notes upon notes upon notes. You can thank dear old dad for that. He's in the chat somewhere. He preserved all 26 bags of my notes and research from prison, threw them all in the attic and forgot about them. And then one day I got out of prison and I went in that attic and found out that dear old dad had preserved everything. It wasn't nothing to him when he visited me to come down there. You know, we shoot the shit, but you know what? I never really bring personal elements of my life into my channel, but many of you have asked. I'm telling you now, my father funded my education while I was in prison. He funded it. This is my adopted dad, but he funded my education. He sent me books every single month. Yeah, rare books, old books, books from all over the world. He did that. He paid for that. Not only that, but he made sure that I had a lot of books from Booktree, my publisher, because my publisher just can't just send me a bunch of books for free. He's got to make money too. I mean, he's got a business to run. So my dad would pay for some of those books. And this is how I got educated partially. But there's a lot of old books floating around Texas prisons. Yeah, I've told the story of how I came into contact with a whole room full of nothing but boxes of old books. Yeah, from the 1800s all the way up to the 1920s, all the way up until Bonnie and Clyde. Because I was there at that prison, Eastham, where Clyde Barrow was when he and his buddy were doing an escape attempt and they shot and killed the major. I was at that prison, and they had so many old books you wouldn't believe it. It's in Lovelady, Texas, Eastham prison. I was there. That's where I got a lot of the good books from my education. So anyway, sorry, another tangent. Let me get all the way down to this thread. I'm sorry I'm skipping a lot of these comments, guys. You know, I just don't, while I'm talking, I just don't have the man. Troy Zob. I appreciate that. Archaix, Jason, I have a venue for you in Redding, California on my property. Plenty of room to host an event. Listen, man, I'm going to screenshot that, Troy. I hope you email me because I don't know how to contact you. I have no idea how to contact you. Anyway, thank you. Oh, got that hot coffee. Okay, there's another thing I want to discuss real quick. Heron Song, 1977, asking about Matt. Matt's doing a lot of administrative stuff, and he had to take a time out for personal issues for a while. But when he came back, he's taking care of Archaix TV stuff. I can't do both. I can't do YouTube. I need help. So let's see. He was just in the chat yesterday. Okay, guys, listen. Vapor canopy can't be admitted. They've got to detract. They've got to do all kinds of things, man, to basically this is why they ignore me. It's 100% why they ignore me. Vapor canopy is something that is going to return after 2040, and it completely makes sense of the unfolding events of the apocalypse period. But remember, the elite hide, guys. During the Phoenix phenomenon, they hide. They have kept this calendar to themselves so they can do different things. And I have shown you direct proof after proof after proof that they have a knowledge of this calendar. They know about the 138-year Phoenix protocol. What they don't know is how severe each event is going to be. So they hide every time, and then they come back out. 1902 was a soft reset, and all the evidence in the world I've provided, and I've got so much more. And you guys have sent me so many emails that also provide evidence from your own local areas. But even by 1902, the international media was already established, and they covered up a whole lot. That's why on the local level, you can still find all these articles in these papers and all these microfiche. And I've shown you these articles in these magazines and references in books. But on the international level, they kept everything hush hush of what was going on all around the world. It took Charles Fort to put a bunch of this together. Charles Fort, who had amassed so much data about what happened in 1902 that he said 1902, that other dark age. Yeah, he didn't want to theorize as to what it was, but he documented so much weird anomalous stuff. It was a vast editing process, and it was covered up. Many things about our reality were edited in 1902, and it was covered up with natural phenomena, like it is every 138 years is covered up with natural phenomena. But that's what it is. That's the why of it. The why of it is simple. As long as you keep the population in check by giving them all kinds of false narratives, they don't care which false narrative you fall for. It doesn't matter, because all of them are false. Therefore, there is no way the public can ascertain any future events, because their entire history has been falsified. So, and when you're in possession of actual historical chronographical material that you've kept from everybody else, you are able to predict when this mechanism is operative. Therefore, you can prepare, and you can hide, and you can even do what you're doing now by using the media to raise the vibration of frustration to such levels internationally that when the Phoenix phenomenon occurs, it will target the wrong individuals, not the guilty, not the elite. It will target those who are vibrating on a real base negative frequency, because we live in a frequency-based reality. That's where we live. And the Phoenix isn't to be feared by those who are living their life. The Phoenix is to be feared by those who are trying to impose their lives on others. The apocalypse isn't what you think, guys. It's an unveiling to those who will be immune. It's going to be a tribulation to those who are basically they haven't cleaned their house. Yeah, Southbound Pachyderm. That's a cool name. Southbound Pachyderm. Yeah, man, it's the insane asylums. There's no doubt. Whole bunch of people were put in those insane asylums for the very simple fact is the editing process. They had become aware of it, and they knew something just weird, totally weird happened, and they couldn't process it. So these sanitariums and insane asylums were there for a purpose, and they're used repetitively, and then they go out, then they pretty much fade out for a while. There's no real use for them other than the slight hiccups with humanity every once in a while, but they're in heavy use after these resets. Yeah, these resets affect different people in different ways. So, not to detract, but some people like to focus on forgive my pronunciation, but Gobekli Tepe. I don't know. Listen, guys, there are 20 different teepee sites. Gobekli Tepe is only one. Graham Hancock and others are trying to convince you that these people who built these sites then buried them with dirt. The theory is so comical. It is absolutely ridiculous. I cannot even believe that anybody would even entertain it. This too is to detract from the fact that we have these liquefaction events and these mud flood events, which are a part of the Phoenix phenomenon. Again, they know the truth, or I'm gonna throw something at you now. I'm gonna throw you something at you now. What if Randall Carlson, Graham Hancock, Andrew Collins, what if Robert Bauval, Robert Schoch, what if None of these men actually know the truth. They're just going with the scripts that they've been given. I'm open to that. I'm open to the fact that Graham Hancock may be on a couch right now watching my video next to Randall Carson, looking at Randall Carson like, the hell is he talking about? What's he talking about? Because Graham Hancock didn't write those books. He's just a face. And Randall Carson has no idea what I'm talking about vapor canopy history, because the man's not a historian nor a scientist. I am perfectly on board with the fact that many popular authors and even YouTube hosts or podcast hosts, I am on board with the fact that many of the things that they're famous for were handed to them by handlers. And it's not even their research. Therefore, they can't defend it when it is so perfectly assailed. I'm on board with that. 100%. Give me, what's your opinion? Tell me in the comment section if that would be a good opinion to have. That maybe these guys aren't as guilty as we think. They're just playing a script. They're just playing a script, playing a role. I mean, guys, come on. You cannot be. If you're still clinging to this falsity that is 9,600 year BC or 10,000 BC or 8,000 BC Atlantis narrative, if you're still clinging to it, we have moved way beyond the picking of sides. Oh, I don't believe that, or that's your truth. One of the stupidest things I've ever heard on YouTube. Oh, that's not my truth. That's your truth. I don't want to hear that, man. When it comes to historical facts, things that can be assessed, things that can, when you can weigh the value of a multitude of witnesses in history, it's no longer it's my truth and your truth. We can agree that we have different truths. It's no more. If you're still clinging to a false pseudo history of Atlantis being that far back in history, then you can be made to believe in anything. And if you're listening to channelers who are telling you that date, that alone is absolutely proof that they're false. They're a false channeler. I believe that some channelers may be real. I'm not taking that off the table. What I'm telling you is that any channeler that's promoting this, you better really pay attention, because now how much other false data did they introduce? How much other data did they actually convey was channeled? But now we see that it's impossible. I just showed you all the evidence of why it's absolutely impossible for Atlantis to have been 9,600 BC. Therefore, any channeled material that claims that means it wasn't channeled. It's just an over-imaginative individual who sold you a lie. Simple as that. There's no way around that data. And if there's anybody out there who's doing channeling, still promoting this, then they're continually lying. There's no way around it. So, yeah, there's just no way around that, guys. None. Now, I mean, for channelers, it's particularly damning because there's only two conclusions. It's only two conclusions. Either one, you're a real channeler and something is feeding you false information. You're tapped into a lying entity, and that's just as bad as you basically just deceiving everybody by virtue of imagination. You got everybody convinced that you're channeling, or you're hosting a channel where you're always citing this channeler. Yeah, either one, dude. This is a litmus test, guys. You can quote Jason of Archaix that I said that you're a fraud if you continue to put that information out there, because it is absolutely disproven. Tell your spirit entity to go watch Archaix. Catalhuyuk, Mohenjo-Daro, Easter Island, Jericho. It's the same. Those are all the same dating of Gobekli Tepe. Gobekli Tepe and all the other teepees aren't old. Just because something is buried underground is not evidence of antiquity. Viking settlements from 1,000 years ago, not one of them was found above ground. They're all underground. They're all excavated. Yeah. 4,000 years ago, Nineveh, Nimrod, yeah, Calne, Uruk, Rashamra, yeah, guys, Urartu, Mari. Why am I naming all these ancient cities? Ugarit. Why? Amarna. They're underground. That's where they're found. That's only 4,000 years ago. So digging up these cultures is not mysterious. Now we have an anachronism here because Graham Hancock has specifically told us that Göbekli Tepe dates to this Ice Age dating. Well, there's a problem with that. This is why other scholars can't take this man seriously. At the top of the pillars is clearly seen the Near Eastern handbags that are so famous in Mesoamerican, Babylonian, and Sumerian artwork. And you can see all these deities carrying this bag. I have a video about this, very short. Many of you already know this, but this bag is found and it's positively dated to about 27th to the 19th century BC. Yeah. Tell me again, Göbekli Tepe is how old now? Those handbags, are you going to tell me that those handbags are 7,000 years older just because they're at Göbekli Tepe than they are everywhere else they're seen in the ancient world, according to the archaeological record? This is why academics and scholars can't take Graham Hancock seriously. It's ridiculous. You know what's equally ridiculous? Göbekli Tepe has artwork that is identical. It's animism artwork on its monuments that are identical to Easter Island Moya. Those giant heads, yeah, there's hundreds of them now, guys. Hundreds of those heads have been excavated. And they're not heads, they're full bodies. Dig down, the whole full body's there. And what's on the back of those bodies and heads? Göbekli Tepe animal art. Yeah, there's even a text. Oh, it's crazy, guys. I'm not making this up. David Hatcher Childress talks about it too in this book right here. He talks about it too. Lost cities of Atlantis, ancient Europe, and the Mediterranean. He mentions this too. Rongo tablets found at Easter Island are identical to the same writing that is found in Turkey. Why is that relevant? Because Göbekli Tepe is in Turkey. What else is in Turkey? Okay, another 19 teepee sites are in Turkey. What else is in Turkey? Why is Turkey so relevant here? Why would they want us to believe these teepee sites are so old? There are 60 underground cities in Turkey that date to the vapor canopy period. They're fallout shelters. Where is Turkey? Oh, Turkey was ancient Phrygia. What do we know about ancient Phrygia? Well, we know that they had a legend of a king named Archaix, and that king built underground cities and took the population from the surface to the underworld to prepare for the coming of the sun. Yeah. Where's that at? That's Phrygia. Where's Phrygia? Well, it's ancient Lydia. What do we know about ancient Lydia? Well, the Lydians are the ones that were in existence after the fall of the Trojan War, the Sea Peoples Federation, when the Sea Peoples came and totally destroyed the Hittites. Why is that relevant? Because Turkey is Anatolia. Anatolia is the Hittite Empire that fell when the Sea Peoples Federation came in and wiped them out. Why is all that relevant? Because the Sea Peoples were from the Atlantic. In Plato's narrative, they are the Atlanteans. Every bit of this comes full circle. You are being specifically lied to about the timing. So basically, I'm just telling you that I'm Jason of Archaix, and I do hold myself to be one of the most accurate chronologists that we have in our time right now. And I try to be as modest as possible, but I'm asserting an absolute fact. And it's a challengeable fact. I invite that challenge. Chronology is my expertise, and ancient calendrical systems is my passion. So I'm telling you that a lifetime's worth of research is showing you that Graham Hancock's not just wrong, he's lying. and that means he's a part of an agenda. So this is the subject matter of this video. My presentation is over. I know it's been a little too long, and I'm sorry, guys, but it's time for just a little bit of Q&A. Let's do it. Do some Q&A. Hey, Ryad. Man, this chat's going strong. Seth Black, that's a pretty good observation, and it's a very intriguing movie. Carol Herring, how you doing? We'll be passing through New Mexico pretty soon. Are you still in Arkansas? Yeah, guys, I'm not. I'm just. I'm not. I'm just not one. I'm not a bully. I don't want to pick on. I don't want to pick on anybody. I'm not gonna sit here. It's just not in my nature. I'm fully qualified to do it. Believe that, intellectually and physically. But it's not even in my nature. I'm not a bully. I'm not trying to intimidate other people. But I have a message, and my message involves the true history and function and future of the Great Pyramid Complex and how it relates, and the history of the Phoenix phenomenon. And if I'm going to be ignored by so many large channels and other authors and all, I send emails to different people. Listen, if I'm going to be ignored, then I'm going to do what's necessary to educate as many people as possible, even if that means I have to lay bare your falsities. I'm talking to other hosts, YouTube channel, other platforms. I'm talking to other authors. I'm not talking to my listeners. I'm not talking to the general public. I'm talking to those individuals who have been on the edge, who have basically refused to even entertain any dialogue with me for whatever reason. I don't care if you're triggered about my criminal history. I left that behind 33 years ago, and so did everybody involved. But if that's all you got to contend with me, then that's cool. You can mention that too. I don't care. But I promise you guys, I am not going to be quiet, and nor am I going to take what I have spent a lifetime putting together and just continually feed it to only the few people who will listen. No. If you're not going to reach out to me, I'm going to reach out and touch you. I promise. I'm going to do it intellectually. I'm going to do it so people can see that you're full of shit. That's what I'm going to do. I've basically been left no choice because Jason's not going to get forced into a bubble. I'm going to grow. I'm going to push forward. And I promise you, there isn't an obstacle in this world that's going to stop me from fulfilling my mission. It's just who I am. It's exactly what's going to happen because the public needs to know about the Phoenix phenomenon, and we need to do that by collapsing all the false paradigms, because as a community we need to move together and we need to remove all these agents and all this opposition like Graham Hancock. You're not going to tell the truth. You need to sit down somewhere. Randall Carlson, you're not going to tell the truth about history and all. You need to sit down somewhere. Billy Carson, you don't want to tell the truth about it. You need to. Paul Wallace, I don't care who you are. I don't even care how popular you are. And I don't even care if all of you come together and attack me. It doesn't even matter, because I'm telling you right now that when it comes to the rules of this game, I am not going to lose. I'm going to push forward, and I know that I can draw from myself more than I contain. And I know that some of you are baffled about what I'm saying, but I'm going to show you, because I am far more proficient in the dissemination of accurate information when I'm under pressure than when I'm just dialoguing with my community. So my challenges are out there, and you can keep silent if you want to. So my presentation's over, guys. If you want to ask me a question, man, please do it in all caps. Just do it in all caps. Errol G, bro, how you doing? You get your coins, man? You get your coin. I think you ordered one coin, right? You should have got a coin over a month ago. Tammy Cunningham. Does what we eat matter when the Phoenix happens? That's good. It's a really good question. Our diets are being purposely contaminated today. But after that event, it's going to be a very different world, and um, the vapor canopy promotes the growth and vitality of flora. So shoot, you want your non-GMO seeds right now. You want to do whatever, preserve them in freezer packs and all that. You don't want to wait 17 years when actual real seeds are no longer available to the public and are very difficult to find. Remember, guys, there's a reason why all of our foods are being artificialized. There's a reason for that. They don't want us to eat anything that's seed bearing, that produces a seed that we'll be able to plant in the future. No, because when they come back up from underground after the Phoenix event during the apocalypse period, they want to be the ones that have all the operable technology. They want to be the ones that are well fed, well dressed, and all that. And they want to come up after the surface has gone through whatever it's going through. Now, remember, the collective, they're going to have a problem. They're going to have all kinds of problems, especially in the inner cities and stuff. But the individuals are almost unaffected by the Phoenix, almost absolutely unaffected. This is a world that is absolutely dependent on whatever your frequency is. It is frequency based. Truth has a frequency. That's why you feel the way you do when you hear it. Therefore, if you're vibrating on higher frequencies to where you know that you are a highly individualized soul, just having a temporal experience, you are an immortal, and that death isn't to be feared, and that none of this is actually real. It's all programming. Even the entire historical record is all programming. This is a simulated environment, but the programming has templates, and there's lessons to be learned in those templates, and this is why we study them. We find these mathematical patterns, these cycles and these epicycles, and we understand where the programming is going. In order to understand the trajectory of events that are unfolding, we have to have an accurate assessment of the programming of the past. These seeds have programming, and that's why they're all being altered right now by these Fortune 500 companies. They know what they're doing. This is something they've done before. Yeah, we're on a loop. Remember, guys, we've experienced this many times. Yeah, guys, it's Groundhog Day. Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. That's a hell of a name. I don't know. Question: any thoughts on Skyrock? Skyrock. I don't know. I don't know. A lot of the meteorites that fall from the sky are not made of rock. They're made of gelatin. They're made of this. This is what Charles Fort and William Corliss have widely documented all throughout the historical record, going back to the days of Pliny the Elder in natural history. A lot of times it's a goo. It's a gelatinous material. Sometimes they call it star jelly. That when a meteorite falls, they go out there to the area and they excavate the area and they find this gelatin all over the place. It's not even a rock. So I don't know. Don't even know, guys. Yeah, Juliet Goodrow. It could be. I mean, even the rollout of 2020 was multiple different. It was multiple different operations happening at the same time. Yeah, 2020 and how the whole world changed and the lockdowns and all the medical stuff. Listen, man, all that, there was multiple different scenarios unfolding all at the exact same time. Yeah, they were studying, documenting, they were seeing how easy it would be for populations to still run perfectly smoothly with nobody moving around. So hell yeah, I'm on board with that. I'm on board with that. Okay, you say the Roman Empire, anything? Oh, that's Monica Trust. I don't really know what you got. Oh, when it comes to Roman history, there's a whole lot. I mean, I've got all Gibbon's books. I got Gibbon's books from the early 1800s. Somewhere in here, I got a whole series of Gibbon. Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. They're huge. Old books. I do have a video. If you're interested in some anomalies about Rome, I do have a video showing repetitive timelines, showing that it looks like part of Roman history was grafted together. Whole templates were merged. It doesn't make, mathematically, it doesn't make sense unless some of that history is artificial. Mindy Barhagen. Listen, Jason, knowing what we all know, what state would be ideal to live in concerning future endeavors? Well, I believe that the oversoul will always take care of its own. I believe that as immortals, those who are vibrating on the right frequency will always be given a way out before any anticipated event. And I believe that in preparing for any negative, you become a participant with it. I believe that if I was to overly prepare for anything negative that may unfold in the future, then I'm borrowing into that. I'm actually knitting that future experience into my reality tunnel, and I'm going to suffer what I'm thinking, because there's always going to be, anytime you prepare for something in the future, there's a part of that frequency is not agitation, but I don't know why I can't think straight right now, but there's a anxiety attached to that. Anxiety is very, very harmful. Anxiety, basically, this is why people rarely get what they want when they've gone through all the motions, when they've actually built the picture of what they want, and then they go through the physical, their avatar moves in the physical direction of what they need, and things happen for them. Things happen for them rather rapidly. But sometimes it doesn't happen, and they just don't want to admit that if you really want something bad, there's an anxiety attached to it. This is why it's very important to let go. You got to let that go into the construct before the construct itself can reflect that back as circumstance. Same thing applies for preparing for a negative. If you're preparing for a negative, you're automatically writing into your future that negative could be more than just potentia. It could be actuality. And that's not good. It's here being over 16.9 years. Turn this off, man. Yeah, 16.9 years. That is distracting as hell. I need to turn this off. I totally lost my train of thought. My phone went off. Let's see. Oh, okay, that was Mindy. Yeah, I just wouldn't prepare. I would not prepare for a negative, especially at this juncture right now. I would have the absolute faith in the oversoul that whatever was going to befall me in the future, an out or something would be provided in the present for that already. It's just the way I live my life as well. I don't care. I mean, it's you've got to live every single day in no fear. Now, I'm not saying that you don't provide for it. I'm saying that you don't provide for it so far in advance that you make yourself a deal. I'm not a prepper, but in a way I kind of am. I do have some food stacked up, but I don't have food stacked up for a long period of time. I don't know. I just don't. I don't buy into that. Reality is to be experienced. I am not going to worry about future events that have not happened yet, because all I'm doing is broadcasting to the construct that those future events that I'm worried about I'm basically coding that into my future. Yeah, I'm taking what is potentia and turning it into something that could be actual. I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Don Forbes, your thoughts on the Thracian and the Scythian Scythian empires. I've done in my Chronicon. I pretty much document what is known in the historical record about the Thracian and Scythians. I really don't know anything beyond that. I know that Alexander the Great was very impressed when he tried to go north and tried to attack them, and they turned around and they met him at the table. And I don't know if you know the story. I think Herodotus tells the story. No, it wasn't. No, I'm sorry. It was Darius. Darius of Persia tried to subdue these bowmasters on horseback called the Scythians, and they harassed his army, and finally he just set up a table, had some guys come out there and told the leaders of the Scythians to come, and they brought him a frog, a bird in a cage, and a snake. Some of you might remember this story better than me. I'm remembering something I read a while back, but in Herodotus's account, the Scythians brought King Darius of Persia, who had the biggest army in the world at the time, a frog, a bird, and a snake. And the interpreters asked, why are you giving this? These aren't gifts worthy of a king. So why are you giving a frog and deal? So the Scythian interpreter told the one who could speak Persian, told them that it's 3 gifts. If you're not out of our land in 3 days, it doesn't matter if you jump like a frog or fly like a bird or slither under rocks like a snake. And they gave him a bundle of arrows. He says it doesn't matter because we'll kill you with all these arrows. Is basically what they're doing. And Darius, the king of Persia, took his army and left. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know much about that. I was really anticipating a Q&A that was relative to the subject matter, but that's okay. Oh my God, I'm way down here. I got burned a year's supply of ramen noodles. That's good. Man. Yeah, man. Ramen noodles. I like ramen noodles. I do. Sydney, Australia. I like Australia. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thai prison. I would not want to be in a Thai prison. Bangkok. I'm glad you had some good books there. I don't know what it is about prisons, guys. Prisons got some really good books floating around. I guess nobody can go to a bookstore, so all the books are old. The thin freckle belly pup. Was Atlantis as it is today or far more advanced? That is a good question because it is relative, and it also covers something that I forgot to mention anywhere in my presentation. Listen, guys, any references to Atlantis being technologically advanced with all kinds of hyper technological things that are even beyond us today is all BS. It is all fantasy narrative. Remember, guys, a lot of what is taught on YouTube and other platforms about Atlantis is total crap coming from the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, has nothing to do with the historical record. Where their sophistication lies is the fact that we do know that in the ancient Americas, they were very familiar with like the piezoelectric, is it piezoelectric or piezoelectric phenomena. They knew how to make earthquake dampeners. They knew how to make artificial lighting out of natural phenomena. So when you're talking about sophistication, no, they weren't circuit board sophisticated like we are, but their engineering was fantastic. Canal works, hydromancy, so many of the things that lost arts, hyperbolic curves in gutter systems and stuff that actually helped water flow. I mean, these things, yes, Atlantis would have been. If we can, I mean, this isn't just theoretical. We can take from the archaeology of the day, which is Knossos. Knossos has very sophisticated architecture, the plumbing, the drainage systems. Yeah, guys, Knossos on Crete, where I showed that picture of that plumed feathered hat that looks just like the Americans of the same time, the Maya that had those plumed feathered hats. So It's not theoretical. We can see that they would have had some very sophisticated naval maritime shipbuilding expertise. Yeah, the ships of the ancient world were far more durable than you believe. Diodorus Siculus, Strabo mentions the long sea voyages of the ancients. This isn't something that's really promoted in modern history, but there was the Heliolithic Maritime Empire. These were a mariner race from which the Carians and Phoenicians came from. Yeah, the ships were sailing all over the world in the ancient times. This is why we have so many different foreign materials that are found distributed through Egyptian tombs and the tombs in ancient America. When they're excavated, we find these things like, damn, this doesn't even belong in America. How did it get here? Well, it got here because they were trading and because ancient ships. Thor Heyerdahl has already proven in the 1950s and 60s in Aku Aku and his other books, his life, he documented building, photographed it, filmed it. He built a reed ship made of the exact same reeds that the ancients built their ships from, and then sailed in all the points in the ancient world where those reeds are found. He sailed around the world, Pacific and Atlantic. Thor Heyerdahl did that, and he shut up the academic community because they didn't believe that there was ancient. But Thor Heyerdahl did it with a small crew of men, and they sailed all over the world multiple times. So, yeah, it's man, guys, I am hungry, and my rant is over, and I'm done with this video. But I don't know who Matthew LaCroix is. You're asking Matthew LaCroix legit? I know the name, but I don't know if he's legit. I don't even know who he is. Guys, I really don't know a lot of other authors. I'm very, very well versed in authors, but other platforms and stuff, no, I'm not. I just know that there's several platforms here on YouTube who have entertained guests that have done some mudslinging against me, and I've been very, very quiet about it. I ain't said anything. And I have experienced quite a bit of passive aggressive stuff from other channels where people mention Jason of Archaix, and then people get real snippy, or all those comments are deleted. That's cool. That's cool. Believe me, I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. But yeah, I love you guys. I got chicken on my mind. I am hungry, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Oh, let me tell you what I'm gonna do for you. Right here. All this material that I read off to you guys in here, it's going to be posted. As soon as I'm done with this video, I'm going to go to my laptop, and I'm going to post this entire list for you in the pinned comment. So you can have all this data, and you can share it with all the agents, all the double agents, all the triple agents, all the disinfo experts, and anybody else who thinks that they want to continue to promote this at Atlantis' 9,600 BC Disney version of history. They can go ahead and check all this out, because they got a lot to disprove before they can even debate this issue. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So, my email is easy to find. Anybody want to hit me up? I had fun with this. I don't want to draw it all the way out, because the people that needed to be put on notice have been put on notice, and I'm cool with that. Yeah. Yeah. We gotta cut this short. Nanny Puffins, Jamie Robbins, Lisa Lambert, Linda Rose, somebody called Keeping It Real, Jahara Lee, Dawn Hart, Jackie M, Alice in Wonderland, Nana No Shift, Truth Seek, and You Shall Find. George, oh, that's a good one. George Abduno. That's how fast the chat's moving. George just disappeared. Wow. Abdul Noor, okay. E. Greens. Hey, there's my buddy, Benny Riley. Catherine Massetti. Mr. C, good to see you in there. Trine Turner. Phoenix Protocol of Discord fame. Man, I hope somebody sends me that book from Discord. Evolution Cruncher. Pamela Swan. Lulu Ponciano. Yeah. Eyes by Rhonda Cosmetic Tattoo. I know you. I hugged you, and I had to keep my eyes on your husband because he was a big old boy. I know who you are, Rhonda. I remember you at the meetup. Rob Max, Renee Gold, JJ Recon, Christina the Astonishing. Good to see you, girl. Wendy Flores, Mama Bear, Baroness 138, Michelle Batzel. I don't hardly ever do these call outs. I do these call outs like this like once a year. So it's really good. Israel Adams, Susie Sherlock, Polyester, S. McDaniel. Some of y'all I don't know. Jim Malone, Front Row Seat, Shiva Shampoo, always my buddy. Jay, Garden Goddess, I know you girl. Seth Black, Anna, Vrab Sinjak. Anna Vrabsinjak. You're welcome. Southern Bell Rising. I've seen you know your name's been popping up quite a bit. VM Rob Montana. Hey man, love you guys. I gotta go. Chicken's calling my name. Keep it real. I love you. And you know you got this awesome outro about to take off. But yeah, it's been real, guys. Got all that shit off my chest. I'm good.